Amos Paul Kennedy Jr. is an American printer, book artist, and papermaker, best known for social and political commentary, particularly particularly in printed posters. Now, and that's the Wikipedia entry about Amos. I doubt he wrote that himself, but it does tell you some of what you need to know. If you're interested in Amos's full CV, I'm sure you can dig that up somewhere on the internet. To get the full picture about his work, you really need to know the man. And if you really want to know the man, all you have to do is look at his work. Here's the key plate. Amos is a printer. He's a printer who makes posters that cut to the bone. You don't have to wonder what they mean. They're honest, they're real, and they're true, just like the man. Amos uses technology from 100 years ago to teach us lessons that we need to understand today. And with that, it's my honor to introduce live from Detroit, Michigan, my friend Amos Kennedy.
Thank you, Dirk. And thank all of you for listening in to me ramble about things I don't know anything about. First, I want to say to the students there, I want to apologize for my generation and the mess that they're going to leave you, because we are leaving you one great mess, many things that have to be corrected because we did them wrong. And I hope that we will be able to give you the skills to correct the messes that we're leaving you, because we failed to identify the things that are most important in life, and that is the environment that sustains us. And we have neglected it and abused it for our generation and probably for a couple of generations before ours showed up. And now you're beginning to reap the effects of that mismanagement of the environment. And that is one reason why I print, is that I want to put a message out there that things can change and you have the ability to change them. But the first thing that you have to change is yourself and your insight into what you want out of the world. And I guess the best way to answer that is to ask, what can you give to the world? How can you improve the world? Because that will dictate what you get out of it. And as I tell students everywhere, I sincerely believe that the best thing you can give to the world is the dream that you have for it. You should try with all your might to live the dream, to live the life that you imagine that you want to live. Because if you do that, you will. If you live your dream will materialize over time. And I am proof of that, because for 40 years of my life, I didn't live my dream. And for the last 30, I have been living my dream. And the world that I want is beginning to materialize. I now live in a community of people that assist and help. And just the communications that happens up and down this block, the help that you will get without even asking, just chipping in because you're out there working. It is a nice place to be for me. And I think this is the kind of place that everyone wants to be, where you can develop your full talents and watch other people develop their full talents, where there's this constant communication and growth of a community to include everybody. This is one of the things that I push for. And when we talk about social change, social justice, I believe that that is what social change and social justice will become. There is a phrase, mutual aid, that has not been used for a long time, but slowly it is creeping back into our vocabulary, that we develop mutual aid systems, mutual aid organizations that will assist people to grow and develop, that we look for alternatives to the status quo, the alternatives that may not work, but we will not know if they don't work unless we try them. And if they don't work, we will know things to try to make them work. Because one of the things is that very seldom do you develop something on the first attempt. It takes multiple attempts, because from each attempt, you learn something new that will help you solve that problem. And so we cannot give up because it didn't work the first time. I bring up the point. So they did a documentary on me several years ago called Proceed and Be Bold, and it's on YouTube. But there's a point where they compare me to another computer analyst, computer person. He was in finance, who gave up his job for a year to become a potter. And he said, I had to go back after a year because I wasn't making the money I was making as a financial analyst. But he had been a financial analyst for 20 years. And I personally think that you're not going to stop one profession where you're making $100,000 a year and start another profession from scratch with no, not going into another job, but I'm just going to start this. And to have the expectation that you're going to make the same amount of money is unrealistic, because you have 20 years of experience and 20 years building up that $100,000, and you're starting from year one again. So why I say that is because it takes time to develop. It takes experience. It takes doing it and learning from the doing. So I encourage you to do and to learn from the doing. I encourage you to put social justice, to put equality, to put humanity first in your life, not second or third, because these are the important things that I have come to the conclusion at the ripe old age of 70 that are so important. How do you treat other people? How do you respect other people? How do you help other people? This is what social justice answers, and in a way that says, I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be cheated from. I want to treat people that way, and in doing so, the world becomes a better place. I did a poster that said, if I can't trust you, who can you trust? Because that is one of the things about trust. If you think that someone is not being truthful, or you can't trust them, then you act a different way. So if you want trust, you have to give trust. If you want social justice, you have to give social justice. I don't know how I got into social justice. I kind of blame my name, because it turns out Amos is sometimes referred to as the social prophet of the Bible, because he was interested in equality and justice for all people. So I blame my name. But then again, I blame the fact that I have just been a contrarian most of my life. If everybody is moving to the left, I move to the right. If everybody is moving to the right, I move to the left. I have can you hear me? Because it says I'm muted. No, I'm not muted. Okay. So I just have this nature about me to question. And as I get older, the questions become more profound, I guess. Or I assume more authority in the questions, because I look around and I say, there's not that many people older than me in the world. So I can ask these questions. So I should ask why. Why is it this way? Why can't it be a different way? And if you cannot give me a concrete reason, then let there be a different way. Question not only authority, but question reality, because is it really real? Is this the way it's supposed to be? That is something that you have to look at. You have to question, and don't be afraid to question. You know, if you don't question one, you won't get an answer. If you don't question, the people that you have issues with may not even know that there are issues. They may think that this is norm and everybody likes it. And if they refuse to answer your questions, then you know that they have not thought through the position that they've taken, that they have just accepted it on blind faith. And that sometimes is not enough to accept something, especially if the policy, the practice is causing harm to other people. Because we should do no harm to anyone. It is so easy not to do harm, but it's so hard to do harm. And I believe that, again, if you do harm to a person, you are also doing harm to yourself. To hate someone requires energy that could be used for something else in your life. To dislike someone, to want to oppress someone requires energy that could be better spent doing something else. So why do that? Why restrict yourself? Why chain yourself when you want to be free? These are things that you look at when you talk about when I talk about social justice. It is really popular because of this year and what has happened and what has come to light in this country. The issue of social justice, the issue of activists. But these are things that should be with us all the time. We in this civilization, my generation was a victim, and then we victimized, turning citizens into consumers, placing more emphasis upon what we buy than how we are governed, thinking that everything can be resolved by a quick fix to a store or to a website to buy some new candy. We must return to being citizens of our civilization. We must return to being citizens who are involved in our own governance, because that is the way that the world should be built, our society should be built, with each of us having an equal voice that is listened to and respected and taken under consideration when decisions are made. And that can be done first by just showing up, not just showing up at the ballot box once every 4 years, but showing up at meetings. How many of you as students have gone to a student government meeting at Texas Tech? Why not? Well, I'm busy. I got studies. I have this. I want to watch this show. Find time, make time. It was really interesting. There was this, I always get the name wrong. The Game of Thorns or the Game of Crowns, whatever it was. That was everyone, it was the rage. Everyone was just watching it. And when I asked, they said, oh, it's about this, it's about these 2 kingdoms or 3 kingdoms fighting for power. And I said, well, that goes on in Congress every day. How come no one watches C-SPAN? And not only that, that actually affects your life. What goes on in the city council meeting, what goes on in the state legislature, what goes on in the Congress. They fight those same battles. They do the same backstabbing and manipulation that you see on these TV shows, but you are affected by them. They will change your life, and you don't have time to watch them. And if you don't watch them, they will get away with all sorts of things and tell you in 4 years you need to vote if you really want to change the world. No, if you really want to change the world, you need to show up at those meetings. You need to tell them what you want, because they don't know what you want. How many of you have ever asked a candidate, and you should, I don't want to hear flowery words about the arts and culture and what it means to our civilization. I want you to tell me how much money you are going to give to it. I want a dollar value assigned to it. Are you going to give $1 million this year to the arts, or are you going to give 10 million? That's a simple question. You don't have to, there's no yes or no. There's like, I'm not going to give anything, or I'm going to give 10 million. Or I'm going to give 100,000. But give me a dollar value. I want something concrete that I can say you didn't deliver, so I won't vote for you, because this is what's important to me. And if you don't deliver on the things that are important to me, then you're not going to deliver on the things that are not important to me, but should be, or the things that I don't have time because I am focused upon the arts. Because it's like, well, if you're going to take care of the arts, you're going to take care of everything else that I'm interested in. Or once I know arts are taken care of, I can move on to my next issue on my list. But I have a list of 20 things that I really want to change. And I'm going to get my friends together and we're going to do this. Sometimes it feels like, we can't do that because like this campaign, they're going to spend close to $1 billion in ads, and we just don't have that kind of money. But you know why they're spending that $1 billion? They're spending that $1 billion for one thing and one thing only: my vote. That vote is worth that much to them. And if it's worth that much to them that they're willing to spend it through advertising, bribes, and whatever else they do, then I am going to treat it that way. But I'm going to be slick. I'm not going to sell my vote to you. I will rent it to you. And if you don't do right, I will evict you from the seat that you're in. And this is one of the things that you should be looking at. How much is going to the arts if you're an artist? And if I'm speaking to a lot of art people, it's like, oh, we don't know if we can fund it this year. We didn't get the funding. We're doing a cupcake sale to raise money for the next gallery opening. No, that should be funded. We have the money in this country to fund the arts. We have done it in the past. Amazing things happened in the 60s. Things that were funded, to art programs that were open for students and for people, children of all ages across the country. So it can be done. We have to redo it. We have to redefine ourselves. And you should be on the lead. You should be the leaders. Ella Baker was a civil rights worker that many of us don't know about, but she worked with Martin Luther King and with the SCLC, Martin Luther King's organization, and she also worked with something called SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was made up of college students. And Ella Baker, in one of her eloquent speeches, said that she enjoyed working with the young because there was the future. And I can help them and guide them, but I cannot really be out there with them. They have to define and make their future, not the future that I want for them, because they will be living in it. And there's a good chance that I won't be living in it. So it is incumbent upon the elders to advise and assist the youth in making this new environment, this world. But we cannot do that because our time is past. We have done the damage that can be done, and there's a good chance that we won't undo it because it is just in our nature. There's that adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Some old dogs you can, but a lot of them you can't. So it is up to you, the youth, to say no. It is up to you, the youth, to say this is the future that I want. And when we say, oh, it can't be done, you say you can't do it. But you can't say, I can't do it, because you cannot see my future and the future that I want. You can only see the future that you want. And the possibilities for something new it does not exist in that future. I have a future of possibilities of new things, different things. And I will not allow you to deny me my destiny, my ability to change. Either you help us change or you sit on the sidelines, but do not try to stop us from changing. Because your world was yesterday. Our world is tomorrow. The fight is today. And we are going to win that fight today for our tomorrow, not for your tomorrow. When I went to college in 1968, my freshman year, I took 18 hours and it cost me $125 in tuition. Today, you can't get a textbook for $125. That has to change. This is what my generation did. We went from nearly free education to shackling our children and our grandchildren with tens of thousands of dollars of debt to get the same education. That is wrong. That we did not make the world better for you. To go from almost practically free education to a debted education is not an advancement. And for you to say, I want to go from an indebted education to a free education is just a return to the way things should be. Because an educated society is an enriched society, is an enlightened society, and it will be one that people want to live in. And not just the college education, but that education in the crafts, the education in the trades, to have those opportunities that people can learn whatever they want to, and they will not be shackled with a great debt. This has to change. This has to change now. Many of you are too young to know about the student demonstrations in Quebec in the late 2000s. But the Quebec government was going to raise tuition not on the students that were in college, but the next generation of students going to college. The students that were there felt that this was wrong, and they went on strike to say, no, you are not going to do that to the next generation, that they have the same right that we have. And maybe it's time, it's like, oh, you got to go to college because this and that and this and that. Well, if I got to go to college, why are you making me spend so much money? Why are you doing this to my life? If it's such a good thing, shouldn't it be available for me without jumping through 1,000 hurdles? Why aren't you doing this? Well, it's cost a lot of money to go to college. And what does it cost? What costs more, an educated citizen or an ignorant citizen? If it's the educated citizen that costs more, I don't think so. I think it is the ignorant citizen, the citizen that cannot or will not participate in the governance of the society, the citizen who wants to remove themselves from the day-to-day issues and decision-making because I'm too tired. It's not what I want to do. I want to go home, drink a beer, and relax. No, I have a social responsibility. I have a civic responsibility. I have a responsibility to my children, not to take them to Disney World, but to make sure that they can go to college for free, because that will give them more than that 3 days in Disney World will ever give them. And they will forget about that Disney World within 6 weeks after coming back. It is time for these things to change. And I'm hoping that your generation will start that change, that you will say, I don't know if it's going to work, but if I don't try it, I will never know if it is going to work. So I will try it. And if it doesn't work, I'll change something and try it again. because this is the way I learn. I learn through experience. The way I will build the world that I want to will be through experience, through experimentation, through trying, adjusting, developing, growing it. It is not a done deal because we said it's the done deal. It is an organic process. It grows, and I want to see it grow. I want the civilization that I want. And I know what it is when I'm in it. And right now, I'm not in it. We're faced with a pandemic that we cannot resolve, despite the fact that the resolution is a very simple one, so to speak. It is a quarantine. It is testing. It is tracking. It is not some great scientific discovery. Sometimes you got to go back to the old ways. And this is the way that we treated quarantine. This is the way we treated pandemics and plagues since we were aware of them as human beings. We would isolate the individual until they were well and welcome them back into civilization. And we did this, and we can do it again. But yet, for some reason, we are reluctant to do it. It's too much of a sacrifice to give up a day, to give up 14 days now. We want instant gratification. That is one of the issues that we have with a consumer society. I want my instant gratification, but instant gratification leaves instantly too. Those things that take time to develop are the ones that you remember. Those things that require more effort are long lasting. And this is what we must seek in the new world, because everyone's talking about the new normal. Let the new normal be our love of humanity and our desire for humanity to exist, not our love of the marketplace and having the marketplace exist. We want humans to exist first. We want to fight for our humanity. And I hope that you, as students and young people, take up this. There has always been a small number of people who have devoted their whole lives to it. Madmen screaming in the wilderness, people would say. Don't worry about him. He has no idea. But if you look, you will see that slowly those ideas that were expelled and dismissed by the masses are the ideas that are beginning to shape this new civilization that I see on the horizon, a civilization that will not be here during my lifetime, but I am certain it will be here during yours, because you will see that there is this change that you need, that there is something greater than the individual. There is the group. And we as individuals must be a group that is there for the common good. The common good, mutual aid. These are old principles that were destroyed that are now coming back to life. The commons. How many of you know what the commons is? A lot of cities have a commons, especially in New England. Or you have the city square, which you kind of think is a commons because, there may be a pavilion there where a band plays or where people gather for events. But the commons was something that belonged to everybody. Everybody had access to it. But in the 1500s, the commons came under attack. But it didn't die. And now it's beginning to show itself again in little ways, in little groups around the country, around the world. But you can unite to become this force much greater than anyone could see. You can unite to bring about a return to the commons, a return to issues of how I as an individual relate to society, how society relates to the environment that we're in, how do we protect the environment so we can live in it. An interesting thing is that humankind has defined a planet as this planetary object that can or cannot have life on it. Mars is a planet, it has no life that we know of. Jupiter is a planet, it has no life that we can identify. The Earth is a planet, it has a life, all types of life, as we say, animal, plant, and animal and plant. And within the animal, it has the human. And it's the human that said a planet does not have to have life. So Earth does not need life to exist. But we as humans need the Earth. So we should care for the Earth so we can exist in it. What do we need to exist in the Earth? To exist on the Earth, we need the Earth. That is what we need first. When I would speak in public, I would ask the students, name one thing that you can't live without. And, right now it would be the cell phone or the internet or this or that. And I said, no, the one thing that you really can't live without is air. Take away air and you're dead. You're dead within maybe 5 minutes, no more than 10 minutes. You're dead. Take away your cell phone for an hour, you're still alive. We have sometimes, some way, forgotten that the things we need is air, we need water, we need land to grow plants that we can eat or animals that we can eat. Everything else is superficial. We don't need it, but we have been taught to think we need it. The things we need is air and water and land. These are the things that there are a lot of people that are beginning to understand we need them and we want them back. We want them back as pristine as they can be. Because the more pristine they are, the better they serve my body and the bodies of all life forms on this planet. These are some of the things that we are concerned about. These are some of the things that you have to address, that you will address. And when you have two ways of addressing it. You can stand up and speak about it. You can stand up and act for it, or you can sit back and observe. You can sit back and don't be a participant. But whichever way you choose, you affect the outcome. One way, you are positively saying, this is what I want. This is the vision. The other way, I'm accepting whatever will be. And if you take the I accept whatever will be, what will be the least good to you. Because that is just the way the world is structured right now. You have to be on that side to say, here is what I want, and here is how I'm going to get it, maybe. But I have made my wishes, I have made my demands known. So you cannot ignore me and say, I didn't know you didn't want that. I thought you wanted it. You didn't say anything. So how was I supposed to know? And so they put the responsibility back on you. Well, you didn't say you wanted to have free tuition. How was I supposed to know? Have you told your professors? Have you told the administration you want free tuition? Well, they just assume that, hey, we can raise the tuition as much as they want because they don't care. Make what you want known. Ask the questions. Make the demands. There's an adage in the marketing that no is a temporary condition. If you don't ask, you won't get a no. So think about, if you ask, you got to know, and that's a temporary condition. So maybe it will change. If you don't ask, they will not know because they're not going to ask you. They're going to do what they've been doing all along. So it's up to you to say no. It's up to you to say, here's what I want. And when they say it can't be done, ask them, how can it be done? We know it can't be done, but tell us how it can be done. Because you guys, it can still be done. It can't be done because you didn't think about doing it. You didn't put any resources into thinking about doing it. Think about how it can be done. Well, we thought about it. No, think about it again. Keep trying till it can be done. If we put enough effort into it, if we put enough thought into it, we can figure out how to do it, because there is a good chance that it can be done. It's just that we don't want to put the energy in. And I think this is one of the things that make for social justice, that make for a social activist. I am prepared to put the energy in to see how what you say is impossible can become possible. Yeah. So that's what I do, and why, at least why I do it. And what I do is I print posters primarily. And as I told Dirk's class yesterday, I print posters because posters invade your visual space. It puts the message where it may be uncomfortable. And I want that message out there. It also puts the message out where it is comfortable, where it gives hope, where people identify and say, yes, I'm not alone. Printing does that. And I love to print. I print every day if I could. And every day I go up to my space where my printing presses are, I print because it is just satisfying. I do letterpress printing, which was founded by Gutenberg like 500 plus years ago. So it is an old form of printing, but it works. It is a technology that has been replaced once by offset and now is being replaced by digital, but it still has a space. It still has people who practice it because it puts the message out there. There will always be people, I think, who will gravitate to letterpress printing because it fulfills something in them. It gives them meaning and purpose in their life. And this is one of the things that you want, meaning and purpose beyond, I need, my mortgage is the meaning and purpose. My utilities are the meaning and purpose. My car note, my car insurance, my health care is the meaning and purpose. No, there is something greater than that. And this is why people pursue letterpress printing. The ability to support yourself is a byproduct of why people do this. But it comes about because they are true to the discipline, to the craft. And I am fairly true to the craft, and I am just eking things out. But I enjoy it because, again, I am looking for this alternative that could be the true alternative to the lifestyle that was presented to me for all of my life. The lifestyle of this being a consumer as opposed to a citizen, a consumer as opposed to a human being that is expressing themselves. This is something that I have been pursuing perhaps all of my life, but definitely the last 20, 30 years of my life on purpose with knowing that it can come about. I live my life in such a way that it isn't how much money I need to live off of, but how little money do I need to live off of. Because one thing is for certain, my time on this rock that we call Earth is limited. And I do not want to take this most precious and limited resource and expend that energy on something I do not want to do. I want to take that resource and do the things that I enjoy, do the things that will enhance life for all people. And one of the ways that I enhance life for all people is that I'm doing this letterpress printing that gives me a satisfaction, and I'm now calling it a happiness that is projected through my life. It is, there's something going on with that guy that makes him act the way he acts. But it's a cool way he acts, and I like that. He's happy. He enjoys himself. He doesn't have a lot, but for some reason, he really gets into it. So that's where I am right now as a human, as a printer, as a citizen of this civilization. I am trying to help the next generation define perhaps the next growth cycle in our civilization that we call the United States of America. Perhaps it will be the time when there is the reckoning of the sins of this nation, that we can do the things that we need to do. And we can blossom to be what we want to be. Because as I said earlier, if I restrict your growth, then I am restricting my growth. If I seek to stop you from doing something, then I am stopping myself from my full potential. The only way I can reach my full potential is that each and every human on this planet, each and every life force on this planet reaches its full potential. Yeah, so that's kind of where I think about when I am printing and when I have to talk to young people, which I do occasionally. But I I like to hear myself talk, but I enjoy more answering questions from people. And so I should have said this earlier, that there is and it may have been said that there is a place where you can ask questions. And so, yes, flood me with questions, anything and everything. As I told the class yesterday, you have to practice asking questions to get good at asking questions. So when you really need to know, uh, when you really need to know something, you'll know how to ask the question to get that information. So I know we have two questions now. Yes.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions. Can you see them there, Amos?
No, I can just, no, I
Okay,
can't. All I can see is the
I
number.
I'll give them to you. Hold on. First of all,
Okay.
thank you. That was great. I know that if we could hear everyone, we would hear 34 people clapping and applauding. So thank you for all of that. The first question, Amos, is from Danielle. It's this: how do you feel about the Black art ecosystem in the current state of the social climate in relation to the artists, collectors, art spaces, and patrons of the arts?
Oh my God. Well, see, I don't believe in art. I believe art is a construct to deny humans their humanness. People make stuff. Okay, people make stuff. People want to make stuff to beautify their environments. And that's what I consider in the gross kind of art. Everybody does it. This civilization has taken art and said, we're going to put it in a particular place, say particular people can do it, and only particular people can buy it. And that is not art. That is capitalism, I guess. That is exclusion. Art does not exclude. Art includes. That environment that you speak of, Danielle, that's the environment you don't want to be in. You want to avoid that. I avoid that like it's a plague. I encourage students that instead of saying, I want to be in this gallery, I want to be in this place, go have a show at your local public library where a lot of people can see it. More people go to the public library than to the museum in town. If your purpose is to expound an idea, to enhance human life, then go where the people are. In the public square, in the public library, in those venues, in the hospitals, if you can, in City Hall. That's where art is. That's what art should be. It shouldn't be in galleries. It shouldn't be in museums. It shouldn't be, in collectors' houses. And if it's in a house, it's not because you're a collector. It's because this functions in my house. Why do you have, why do you have this pottery by this artist? Because they need, in this environment, they need to make money, and I need to have a coffee cup. So I bought my coffee cup from them. And yes, I know it's beautiful. That's the other reason why I bought it, because it's beautiful and it's functional. That is the thing. Like art, a lot of times, art is only functions as eye candy. And then we got to this point where if you don't know multi-syllable words, you can't be an artist. What's that about? Everybody creates and makes beautiful things. I don't really, the idea of art just is like, it makes me go crazy. Not crazy, but it's like, why? Why do you want to exclude people? Art is for everybody. Everybody does it. I think about it. I say, well, art really is the energy required to create something. It is a process. It is an experience that I go through. And what you see as a result of that is a poster. That poster isn't the art. The art is the transformation I went through to make that poster. And that transformation and that energy, a little of it is residue in that poster. And when you see it, if you relate to it, that's because, again, it relates to the energy of your art, your creativity inside of you. And this is why you want it or why you enjoy it. It is that. It is not, this thing that has been created in the last, since the Renaissance. If I ask you, name one sculpture from the 13th century, you can't. If I ask you to name one painter from the 11th century, you can't. But sometime during the Renaissance, suddenly people got their names associated with things. And now everybody wants it. And you know what really ticks me off? You know what really, really ticks me off? You can't be an artist unless you have an artist statement. What's that about? Why do you have to explain it? Either people see it and get it or they don't. Yeah, you can explain it. Yeah, and that helps. But why? I tell people, do authors have to have a painting when they author a short story or a novel so people can understand it? No. Do they have to have some sort of, cliff notes? So here's so you can understand all the stuff that's going on and why I wrote it. No. So why do people who make stuff have to have that? The hell with it. Yes, next question.
So, Amos, I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. This pertains to these questions. It's one of my favorite little prints I have of yours right by my desk. Own the means of production. So a couple of questions I'm going to pose to you at the same time. Catherine asks, do you have your own print shop? And Tom asks, Amos, can you talk about Pile of Bricks and how folks who are trying to learn how to print can be a part of this?
I have my own print shop, and I've had I used to call myself a printer, but then now I just call myself, someone who makes stuff. So I have a space where I can print, and I have multiple presses. And right now I am restoring an old auto garage to become a print shop. And so, because one of the things I've learned in the last 10 years, traveling around, speaking at universities, is that once the students graduate from the university, if they have had that letterpress experience, but this is anything that you do in what we call the art department, unless you're a trust fund baby, you don't have the money to set up the equipment to work on your own. Because a printing press costs like $5,000-$6,000, and you're already $60,000 in debt, you know? So you don't have that. So I said, what I want to do is that I want to have a space and have a press, my press, and have another press, or maybe a couple of presses. So if one of these students say, oh, you know, I wanted to finish that project and I couldn't because I graduated, or I want to make this and I need to have a letterpress, I need to have access to a letterpress facility, then they can say, wait, Amos is in Detroit and he has extra press. I wonder what he's doing with it. And they call me up or they email me and say, hey, could I come up in March to print something? And I look and I say, nobody else is coming. Yeah. And it's like, well, thank you. And people say, wow, man, that's really generous of you. And I'm saying, well, let me explain life to you. I have this building that I bought, you know, I fixed it up with the help of my community. And when I say my community, not just the people here in Detroit, but all around the world, all around the country, because I've done a couple of, crowdfunding projects on Indiegogo. And once it's all done, I'm going to have an electric bill, and DTE doesn't care if there's one person in the building or two persons in the building. I'm going to have to pay a certain amount of electricity. So I'm not like, to have someone in my space is not costing me any money. So why shouldn't I open it up to somebody? And that's what the Pile of Bricks is about. It is to provide a space where individuals who want to experience letterpress printing or want to complete a project that they requires letterpress printing will have access to the tools and the equipment that I have. Now, if you need something special, you're on your own. But if it's there in the shop, it's basically there for you to use. I mean, if you come there and you just want to make paper, you know, make posters with chipboard, I got lots of chipboard. And like my chipboard cost me maybe 10 cents a sheet. So we're not talking about, you know, like I'm spending billions of dollars on handmade paper. So it's like, it's just chipboard. Have the experience. Also, I believe that the way an individual grows is by having experiences. So if you come because you think you want to do letterpress printing and you get there in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, you find, I don't really like this. You've had the experience, you know. And that's a lot different than spending the rest of your life saying, if I had only taken a letterpress printing course, if I only had access to it, I could have. And I don't want to be that person that said, well, if Amos had just let me come, you know, I could have done that. No. So yeah, there will be some scheduling things, but basically it's going to be a first come, first serve sort of thing. And like, yep, this year's taken, but you know, like next year is open. You know, like think about it. Do you want me to put you down? You know, and it's like, okay. And if you don't show up next year in March and somebody calls, you know, the end of February, I'm like, yeah, come on, because they backed out. There will be some protocols. Right now, I've been doing this. I did this a lot in the 2000s, 2010 through 2006 through 2013. And people would just show up at my shop and print. You know, they would stay with me. I had a space big enough that they had to sleep in the shop area. Maybe I slept in the shop area and they slept in the apartment, but I don't care, you know. It's like, you know, you want to have the experience, come have the experience. If you want to eat the food I'm eating, okay, you know, I can cook a little bit more for you. But if you got a special diet or you don't, you know, I don't like this, then you are kind of like, well, you got to figure that out. Because one of the things is that growing up, they always said that a large family can always have an extra guest because everybody gets just a little bit less going around and the guests will get it. And so it's kind of like that thing going on. Yeah. Next question. Wait, did I answer both all those questions?
Yeah, I think that was.
I know what I want to say. That poster, Own the Means of Production. The first means of production you have got to own is yourself. Okay? You are a means of production. You have got to own yourself. And when I say you got to own yourself, then yeah, if you work for somebody else, you still got to say, I am the means of production in my world, and I am going to take care of me. I am now to the point because you again, it's all about experience. So when I first started out, I was looking for clients, and I would talk to people. People would come and say, "Well, we're interested in doing this poster and blah blah," and I get my hopes up, and then I get a phone call. Well, my boss said that no, we can't do it this year, and maybe next year we'll do it. And I'm like, wait a minute, there was someone else that's a decision maker. When in my shop, I am the decision maker. If I say it goes, I can't come back to you and say, well, someone else didn't approve it, so we can't do that. And so I got to the point where I want to talk to the decision maker. I don't want to talk to the person who has to get it approved. I want to talk to the person who approves it, because that's the person that you're talking to when you talk to me. When I say I'm going to print it, I cannot back out of it, because I have given you my word, period, end of discussion. The only way I can back out of it is that I die before I do it. Yeah. Now, the next question, Dirk.
So if anyone has one more question, please pose it. I think we have one more. Maybe you've kind of already answered this, Amos, but it's a good compliment, so I'm going to read it to you. Kelsey says, first, I wanted to say thank you. The way you talk about conservation, true conservation, as a way to avoid wasting our time, our lives, our world, our opportunities to care for others is truly unique, and something I know I'm going to be thinking about for a long time. Could you tell us more about ways that you work with others and communicate your message? So I feel like maybe you've explained some of that, but if there's something you want to elaborate.
Well, I think the best way you can communicate your message is by living your message. And that's why I attempt to do every day, live my message. I attempt to be kind. One of the adages that I like is from George Washington Carver, and he had a list of things that young men, because he taught agriculture and it was all male classes, and young men should aspire to. And one of the things was be too generous to cheat. And I like that word generosity. I like the word kindness. And so these are things that play a lot into my life. I think that if you're generous and you are kind, that brings about happiness. And I think that happiness really is the highest form of living that one can have. One wants to live in a happy environment. And happiness is, happiness has a serious side to it. It's not frivolous. To be happy requires energy, requires thought. It brings a peace and a calm. It's not all the time agitation, like high energy. Sometimes it's very calm and quiet. But it's all part, you experience all of this when you reach this state of happiness. So that's how I go about doing it. I just kind of hang out. People ask me, what do you do all day? And I say, I just kind of putz around. I have a lot of different projects. I really think, and I'm not being egotistical or anything. I think there's a lot of people who would like to live my lifestyle. That, like, what do you want to do this morning? Oh, I want to, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And when I said live my lifestyle, it's not just printing posters every day. Some days, for those of you who don't know about letterpress printing, you have these metal or wooden blocks, objects that you assemble to make words and to make sentences and to make paragraphs, whatever. And then you print them. And when you're through, you have to put them all away. That's called distributing. And so some days just distributing. Some days it's just cleaning up my shop. Not because, I got to clean my shop up. It's because something hits me and that's what I want to do. I want to organize. I want to make all the stacks neat in the shop. And then the next day, I may not want to do it at all. But it's this. Things that have to get done the time will come and I do them because it has to get done. So yeah, I guess I kind of have a flow with time that, my time is mine and I encounter things when they have to be done. I don't say things have to be done right now. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's just I just kind of live this. It's a weird life I live. You know, I have no visible means of support, but for the last 30 years, I've gotten away with stuff. You know, as I was telling your students yesterday, my truck is a 1995 truck, but it gets me from point A to point B. How long will I keep it? I, I'm going to keep it like forever because it's cheaper to fix it than to buy a new one.
I think that sounds great, Amos. We may be a little over time here, so
Oh,
I think no, I guess we're fine. But I think
yeah.
I think you kind of answered the questions that maybe might still remain, and that was amazing. I really want to thank you, Amos. Big applause.
I hope everybody gets to go to see the exhibition because the thing is that I don't know. I don't even know how it started. Oh, it started in Alabama for a project that I had to do for an exhibition, and I started printing on state maps. And so, for those of you who don't know, once upon a time you go into a state and you stop at a welcome center and you get a map of the state. It would be this big thing, too big to open up in the car, but and that's how you got around because that's where your directions. And some states was done. I think states are still doing it, one or two, but you could get these maps. So since the 2005, I've been collecting state maps to print on. And I think Dirk has one for Texas. You can go to hell, I'm going to Texas. Yeah, I printed on a Texas map because somehow I got one. But I like doing that, printing on maps. And that's something that people normally don't do. And that's one of the things when you create stuff and you make stuff, it's like, what will happen if I do this? I don't know. Try it. When people come to my shop, they say, "Can I do that?" I say, "I don't know. If it doesn't break the press, you can. Try it, And if it breaks the press, stop. We'll fix it. So yeah, that's one of the things that experimentation, learning is something you always want to do and be careful with yourself. I would like to tell people one thing that I say, I believe you can do whatever you want to do, provided you do not cause harm to someone else, including yourself. All your actions should be such that they are positive to the world that you live in. So you don't want to cause harm. Yeah.